Alright everyone, I think almost every single person that's watching this video, you can probably relate it to the topic I'm about to discuss. So this is going to be a very important. I want to start the video with this quote. This is a very famous Chinese quote, and I think it's one of the best quotes out there in the world, honestly. Let's actually read this together. So this is 家和万事兴. It's only 5 characters. Let's break down each one of them and let's combine them together. And I think this will make so much sense to so many people out there. So this is 家. That's the 拼音. That's how you pronounce it. 家. So this means family. Very important. So one thing that's very special about these Chinese characters, each one of them has a very special meaning. You see this on the top there? That's the rooftop. See, the family unit stays together. That's the nuclear family. Everybody lives under one roof. And you see this point here? Everyone stays together. This is all of your family members, all under one tree branch. So this is 家. And the next character, this is 和. What is 和? This means peace. So, see, it's very simple, right? So, what is 1? The next character, the third character is pronounced 1. So this means 10,000, literally translates to 10,000. And this is 是, the fourth character. So what is 是? So this can be translated to roughly just, things. Or let's say affairs. Yeah, affairs, things, stuff that happens in life. And this is the fifth and the final character, 兴. So this roughly translates to something like glorious. So there's no perfect translation for this Chinese characters. So 家 family, 和 peace, 1 10,000, 是 things, affairs, and finally 兴 glorious. So what happens when you combine all 5 of these characters together? Yeah, it roughly translates to when there's peace and harmony in the family, then 10,000 things in your life will be glorious. It's really that simple. Think about everything that's been happening to our society. And of course, for this video, I'm going to discuss why so many Asians are failing miserably. And I'm sure you guys know where I'm going. Well, it has everything to do with the 50% divorce rate in China, in Singapore, Taiwan, South Korea, in Japan. I mean, sure, a lot of you guys out there saying that, you can't compete with Asians. They just tend to excel better versus other ethnicities. I don't think I can agree with that. I think, honestly, nowadays when I look at it, especially looking at my family, generally speaking, I would say, yeah, a lot of Asian families, they're some of the most toxic out there. Just people tend to hide it better. One thing I have mentioned in previous videos is called saving your face. So it's a lot of Chinese people, they have this huge ego. It's way up here, way higher than I would say Indians or Arabs or white or black people, right? And even though they have all kinds of terrible things, that's all of these messed up things that's going on in their lives, they just hide it all the time. I did mention my grandparents, my maternal grandparents. Yes, they did stay married all the way until the end. They were married for over 50 years. So that's considered to be a golden marriage in China. But so what? They fought each other to the death almost every single day. Honestly, looking back at it, right? They even, I did mention, right? I grew up without parents, without a mother and without a father. I was raised by my maternal grandmother. And at the time, she was still living, of course, with my maternal grandfather. And they fought each other to the death almost every single day, tooth to nail. Probably, I would say, the final 8 or 10 years of their marriage. They each slept with a knife underneath their pillow because they were ready to stab each other to death. And I did mention this before, so this must have been around 2000 or 2001. I was in grade 2 or grade 3. The fighting got so bad that my grandmother was nearly killed. We had to call the ambulance for her. She got sent to the emergency unit at the hospital, and we had to resuscitate her because she was viciously attacking my grandfather. She was using a pair of these chopsticks, and she kept poking him in the head. He was in so much pain, he was screaming. There was blood coming out of his head. It got to the point where it was so bad that where he nearly choked my grandmother to death. I mean, what kind of a marriage is that? And you wonder why. Yeah, my mom turned out the way she did, and she's about to divorce for the 7th time. And you wonder why my sister turned out the way she did. My older sister, that is, right? She's about to be divorced for the 4th time. So 11 divorces between 2 women. Once again, right? 家和万事兴. When there's peace in the family, 10,000 things in your life will be glorious. And when you have a family that looks like mine, yeah, you're going to be 100% screwed. You have no chance. And a lot of Asian families, I would say in 2025, probably I would say 1 out of 2 are like my family now. They just tend to hide it better than most people because most Asians, especially Chinese people, they have a huge ego and they want their face to be this big. But let me just give you guys a couple of examples on some Asians that have failed miserably. I'll start with I would say this guy was my first supervisor. So this is many years ago when I first dropped out of school. Of course, I've since returned to my school and I have graduated. Just want to let you guys know that's how I got in so much debt. But I am paying back that debt. So it's a Chinese guy, right? So this guy is 6'1", and I imagine his family was fairly successful in China. He came to Canada as an international student, and obviously he had these the Canadian dream. He had his own goals, ambitions. He wants to be the next big shot, but he ends up working at a grocery store. Sure, I mean, he was a supervisor, but supervisor at most grocery stores, you typically make $3 above minimum wage. So, I mean, that's really nothing, right? It's the same wage as a bricklayer. But by the way, yes, he did have a girlfriend. See, it's very important. A lot of men and women out there saying that your height doesn't matter. Well, your height 100% matters. I did mention in previous video that my younger sister and a cousin, they're both married to Chinese millionaires. By the way, I don't think they have $1 million in their bank account. What I mean is that, both of these guys, they own a house. They own it outright in the Greater Toronto area. So if you're watching from America, that's the equivalent of somebody owning a house, a single detached home in New York City or LA. Yeah, if you own one of those, you're probably a multi-millionaire, not just a millionaire. And obviously, both of these guys, they make 6 figures. And one guy is 5'11", the other guy is 6'2". See, it makes a huge difference. So this one guy, he's a 6'1", he has a girlfriend, and he thought that, I want to be the next big shot, just a supervisor at a grocery store. That's some kind of BS job. And then he quit the job, and then he opened up his own bubble tea shop because he thought he would be able to make like $250,000 a year from his bubble tea shop. But you know what? The bubble tea business, he went bankrupt after less than 1 year. I think if it wasn't for his parents, he would be 100% screwed. He'd be drowning in debt. We're talking about, at least $100,000, possibly $150,000 to $200,000 in debt. And I think he was bailed out by his parents. And now, he's back at the grocery store working as a supervisor. So, he's probably making something like, $40,000 a year at best. So yeah, I just want to tell you guys that, Asians, they fail all the time. I'll tell you another guy. This one I would say I'm the most angry about because this guy actually has all the potential. First time I met this guy, he came to Canada as an international student as well, same university as me. He went to Carleton University. So first time I met him, right? So he was this, bright, young, 18-year-old international student that just landed in Canada from the city of Nanjing. So his parents were super rich. And obviously, he got himself this nice and big 1-bedroom apartment. And his daddy bought him this BMW, and it was upgraded. So it was made to look like a sports car. It wasn't a regular BMW because you could tell from very far away. You see this guy's, riding this fancy sports car. And I would say, yeah, when he was 18, he was fairly good looking. But honestly, this is probably the laziest guy I've ever seen. He was just a completely useless sack of. By the way, I'm mentioning this guy because, after probably how long has he been in Canada? 10 years, at least 9.5, almost 10 years, right? He couldn't fund anything, and he almost got expelled from the school. So what happened was, I'm sure you guys get it, ChatGPT, all kinds of cheating, using things like Course Hero, using Chegg, all kinds of stuff like that. And for 2 of these classes, I believe that, all of the works that he submitted, it was like a 95% match with another Chinese international student. So yeah, they both almost ended up getting expelled. He was copying other guys' homework. So I mean, I worked with this guy on and off for probably 4 or 5 years, right? Honestly, I think the only reason why he didn't get fired was because, he was working at a Chinese grocery store. And if he was actually working for white people or black people, they would have fired his ass a long time ago. So most of the time, right, I would say 70 to 80% of the time when he's at work, he's just like this. He's just sitting there. I'll give you guys an example, right? It's very simple job. You're supposed to be, just stocking the shelves, stock some dumplings, some noodles, some wontons, some eggs and milk. There's nothing much to it. But most of the time, he's just sitting there like this, looking at his phone, playing video game. Yeah, like whatever, man. Oh, that's bullshit, man. I just don't feel it. And he's half asleep most of the time because he doesn't sleep at night. Stays up all night playing useless video games. And then when he runs out of money, by the way, those video games you have to pay, you have to make in-game purchases. When he runs out of money, he just asks his dad to wire him more money. So he's up all night regularly, probably sleeps at 7 in the morning or something. So when he shows up to work, he's always drinking energy drinks, drinking Coca-Cola, drinking Pepsi, has no energy all the time. And he's just half the time, he's just like, yeah, man, whatever, I don't want to do any work. Hey, just do the work for me, man. I just don't feel it. Man, this is all BS, man. I don't want to do this. I don't want to be here. So, yeah. This is why, one of the top requirements when a man is looking for, potential partners that, the woman cannot be fat. There's a reason why, because, for all the women out there, they want their man to be 6 feet, right? A guy has no control of his height whatsoever, but everybody has 100% control of their weight. That's not an excuse at all. It's never ever okay to be fat, because the first time I met this guy when he was 18, he was a tall, skinny, good-looking guy. He was 6'1", right? His height hasn't changed, but I would say probably over the course of his 10 years in Canada, he's probably put on, I would say, 50 pounds, at least 40 or 45. Like, his face is completely stretched out, because this guy is one of the laziest and the most useless people I've ever seen, right? So to be people out there saying that, Asians, they're so motivated and they go to school, they work hard, I don't think any of it is true, because this guy is a completely useless sack of That's how I saw him. If you're wondering what the hell he's up to now, he must be 29 or 30 now. So yeah, 29 years old. Yeah, he's back at his daddy's big mansion. He's living with his parents. He's not doing anything. Just stays up all night playing video games. And I heard he's even put on more weight. He's probably, well beyond 250 pounds, probably 275 at this point. I'll give you guys another example, another Chinese guy. So yes, he does have a girlfriend. He's been in a relationship for, God knows, he must be in a relationship with another Chinese woman, must be 10 years now. Honestly, just it's 100% pathetic. He makes what, 50? I would say $55,000 a year, maybe, perhaps, right? So, but he's got no money, zero savings, right? I mean, obviously, you guys can understand, like, $55,000 a year, right? That's nothing. But if he was living by himself, he still have lots of money. So yeah, he's had this girlfriend for a very long time now. By the way, this guy is 6'2". See all the guys I mentioned that have girlfriends? Well, the one guy that went back to China, he's 6'1", he doesn't have a girlfriend, but I mean, it's 100% his fault. And it's the same thing. A guy is not going to want a woman that's like that, right? So the man's going to be thinking, if you're this fat and lazy all the time, how are you supposed to be doing any cleaning? How are you supposed to do any cooking, right? And when you're cooking, you're going to eat all of my food. You're going to eat all of the kids' food. So, how can you be the woman of the household? So this 6'2" guy, at one point, he quit his job at the grocery store. He went back to school. He has a degree in engineering, some kind of engineering, could be a mechanical or electrical or some kind of engineering degree. But and then he tried to search for a job for many years, couldn't find anything, ended up coming back to the grocery store. Yes, even though he's in more of a managerial position, but him and his girlfriend, so they rent 2 separate rooms in a house. I just don't understand that mindset 100%. So I think the thing is that his girlfriend doesn't, basically she's like the one that's wearing the pants in the relationship. By the way, so they've been together for something like 10 years. If it's not 10, it's got to be 8 or 9. She has not worked a single day since they got together, right? See, here's the thing, right? So especially for Chinese women, if you end up becoming a leftover woman, that's 100% your fault, because dating for men in China is almost impossible. I mentioned, right, my sister and my cousin, just 2 regular average Chinese girls, nothing special. They're not like actress or Victoria's Secret, the supermodel or anything. They got to marry 2 Chinese millionaires. So this guy, I mean, he had to really work on himself and get himself in shape. I heard, back when he was chasing this girl, it took him like 3 months. He was running every single day, so roughly 5K or 3.1 miles. But if you multiply that by 7, right? So I mean, that's 35 kilometers a week. That's not bad at all. So yeah, he did that for about 3 months. He got really fit, right? At one point, he was looking pretty good. A tall, slim, 6'2", a Chinese guy. Although since then he's put on a lot of weight. So then she finally agreed to date him. But then she said that you're going to take care of me 100% financially. And I even believe that 100% of his paycheck goes directly to her. So despite the fact that this guy is making all of the money, he's his girlfriend's bitch. And the reason why they're only like half shacking up is because she has had her own separate room. So she will only sleep with him whenever she feels like it. She's using basically sex as a weapon. She's saying that, if you don't listen to everything I do, you're not getting the cookie. And the only thing you will have to play with is your right hand. So yeah, it's been like that for almost 10 years. I can understand if they're actually married, if she actually gives birth to a son or a daughter to him and she's actually raising a kid. But yeah, she doesn't have a job, doesn't do anything, and she's the one that wears the pants in the relationship. She has 100% access and control of this guy's bank account, of every single one of his paychecks, and he has to do everything according to her. So what kind of life is that? I mean, this guy, how old is he now? Yeah, he must be 40. So most likely at some point, he's going to end up single and childless for the rest of his life. And he has spent probably, 60 to 70% of his paychecks on his, girlfriend, who at any moment, for absolutely no reason, can just break up with him. And he's going to be left with nothing, a 10 years investment. So, I mean, what the hell is that? The list of examples goes on and on. I can talk about so many Chinese people that have failed miserably during their life in Canada. See, nowadays, because the rise of internet, the rise of social media, anybody can just say a bunch of BS online. For example, if I actually weren't honest with you guys, I can say that I'm actually a top G. I'm actually making $250,000 a year. I own my own law firm in Toronto, and I got everything going, right? But nowadays anybody can say stuff like that. So people think that there's all these big shot out there, and it's very bad. It's very detrimental for both man and woman, because women, they look at these men on social media, they think that, oh my god, there are so many top tier successful men out there, and I have so many options to choose from. Well, the reality is that the vast majority of the population is broke, right? I would say probably in America, Canada, any Western country, probably 50% of the population are living paycheck to paycheck. And when it comes to young people, it's probably worse. It's probably like 75%. Yes, there are some people who do have money, but the vast majority of the people that do have money are old people. It's the exact same thing in China. And why do I want to give you guys these examples? It's because, I actually don't think that, Asians are just smarter or they actually work harder, because I met a lot of Chinese people who are extremely lazy. They're extremely unmotivated. They have a lot of terrible habits. I think, a lot of Asians, they just hide it better because, the whole face thing, saving their face. So they say a lot of fake stuff, just like my maternal grandparents, even though they fought each other to the death every single day. But every time they went out, when they socialized with their friends, their inner circle, they always said, oh my god, we love each other so much. We're in the most perfect marriage in the world. We've never had a single argument, and we're just so happy with each other. But after the conversation, once they get back home, my grandma, she would literally take out chopsticks and start stabbing my grandfather in the head. And once in a while things get so bad, she would get punched in the face by my grandfather. It was very normal for her to end up with a black eye, because she would constantly attack my grandfather, and it was like that every single day for over 50 years. So, but on the outside, they always told everybody, they never ever had any issues. So, a lot of it is a mirage. It's an illusion. Just like the examples of the Chinese guys I've given you guys. Yes, those Chinese guys are tall. Yes, they do have a girlfriend, but they live an absolutely miserable life. The one guy, if it wasn't for his parents that bailed him out, after, going bankrupt with his bubble tea business, he would have been 100% screwed. He would be left with absolutely nothing. The other guy that got extremely fat, I mean, his BMW sports car, that's all his daddy's money. That has nothing to do with him. And now, at the age of 29, he's back to living with his parents once again. If his daddy didn't have any money, he would be dead. He would be starving to death on the streets. But I will give you guys a great example of one Asian who absolutely excelled all the way to the very, very top, probably the 0.0001%. Obviously, you guys have seen professional athletes, and obviously you guys know people that has graduated from famous world-class universities, right? Schools like MIT or Harvard or Princeton or Yale or Stanford. But how many people have done both? How many people has graduated from an Ivy League school, then after that also becoming a professional athlete? And this guy actually played in the NBA for 9 seasons. I'm sure you guys know who I'm about to mention. Linsanity, right here, Linsanity. So if you're wondering who is Linsanity, talking about Jeremy Lin, right? Jeremy Lin, right, graduated from Harvard, also went on to play in the NBA for 9 seasons. Yes, he does have an NBA championship ring with the Toronto Raptors in 2019. Then after that, he played in China for a few seasons. I believe he also played in Taiwan for 1 year. So Jeremy Lin's born in America, and his parents are from Taiwan. So this guy, obviously, he's very, very successful, a multi-millionaire. But do you guys want to know the number one determining factor behind this guy's success? But everything before Linsanity. So if you actually watch a little bit of basketball, if you know a little bit about his story. So after he graduated from Harvard, he had this very serious conversation with his parents. He told his parents, I know I got this piece of paper from Harvard, but instead of working a normal day job, sure, I mean that job can probably pay me like 200,000 US a year or something, but I want my shot at stardom, and I want a chance to make it to the NBA, but I'm going to need some time because at my current level, I don't think I'm good enough. I'm not ready for the NBA. Even if I do make it, I'm probably most likely going to be a bench warmer or a role player at best. So I'm going to need some time. Then his parents told him, okay, so we're going to support you financially for 2 years, but after that we won't have any more money. And if you still haven't made it in the NBA, and if you cannot become a professional athlete, then after 2 years, when you turn 24, you're going to be on your own. And Jeremy Lin at the time, right, he didn't reveal this until many, many years later. He didn't know where his parents got the money to support him financially for those 2 years. I don't know how much the money they took out, but for 2 years, probably minimum 100,000. And it wasn't until Jeremy Lin actually retired from the NBA after he walked away from basketball. Obviously, he has paid all of this money back to his parents, probably by 5 or 10 folds. He asked his parents finally, right, for those 2 years, before I became Linsanity, right, before I had a chance with the Lakers, then with the Rockets, then finally winning a ring with the Toronto Raptors. How did you guys find the money to support me for those 2 years? Then his parents have finally revealed the truth. They actually didn't tell him this. So in America, there's something called 401k, right? So that's your retirement money. Their parents, they sacrificed everything for their son. They took out the entirety of their retirement savings, which they have been saving up for probably 20, 25, or 30 years in order to support Jeremy Lin, because they believed in their son, because they believed this guy could be Linsanity. This guy can possibly win an NBA championship. And that's this kind of a sacrifice you need. And I do believe, the number one reason why, China is struggling, Taiwan is struggling, South Korea is struggling, Japan's struggling. The reality is, at the end of the day, right, these countries, they're not as great as they used to be. It's the same thing any Western country, Canada, United States, Australia, New Zealand, all of Europe, they're not as great as they used to be. And I don't think the number one reason is immigration. Part of it, yes, but I don't think that's the number one determining factor. The reason why everything is progressing backwards is because this, 家和万事兴. When there's peace and harmony in the family, 10,000 things in your life will be glorious. And I do believe the number one reason why, so many of these Asian countries, so many of these Chinese men I mentioned, they're failing miserably at life. It's because they don't have the nuclear family anymore. And the modern Chinese family is full of divorces, it's full of chaos, it's full of drama. And coming back to the point of, why having parents, having a nuclear family is so important, especially in China, where the dating game is almost impossible. But I did mention, right, in the previous video, the number one determining factor for a Chinese guy, whether he's able to find a Chinese wife and get married versus this guy just becoming incel for the rest of his life, is having a house. My younger half-sister and also my cousin, right? So I did mention they got married to Chinese millionaires because they actually own a home in the Greater Toronto area, single detached home, no mortgage. These guys are there, maybe 25 or 27, 29 when they got married. How can these guys in their mid to late 20s afford a single detached home without a mortgage in the Greater Toronto area? How can they do that? Well, it's because of their parents. Their parents, they sacrificed everything so that their son can afford to find a wife and get married. This is why, in China, if you were raised by a single mother, I would say you have absolutely no chance. How can she provide a house for you? Because the chances are, if you grew up in the worst household, your parents probably lost everything. At least 70 to 80% of their financial assets through a divorce. And right now in modern China, the dating game is so rough. If you don't own a house, you have no chance, right? So basically what it means that, the average guy, his attractiveness in the dating market to the average Chinese woman, most Chinese guys are probably like a 2. But, if this normal average Chinese guy, if he owns a house in China, a 3-bedroom, 100 square meter house, then this guy goes from a 2 to an 8. See, women are very weird about this. But I did mention, right, this is the issue with feminism, with female empowerment, with this so-called equality. At the end of the day, when it comes to dating, marriage, relationships, women date vertically up and the man date vertically down. A woman is not going to marry or procreate with a man that makes less money than them at the end of the day. That's why all of these modern Chinese women, they all want a nice and big house. How the hell is a Chinese guy that's 25, 27, 29 able to come up with a house, right? It's 100% down to your parents, and if you're wondering how their parents can afford a home, well, I did mention this before, right? During China's economic miracle during the property boom. And their parents probably, I mean, sure, they worked hard, but they probably bought their house 30 years ago for something like $10,000. Then 30 years later, that house is worth $1 million. So what happens is that 30 years later, if their son's 25 or 26, if he wants to find a wife or get married, they will simply let their son inherit the house, and the parents will actually just go out and rent a small 1 or 2 bedrooms apartment where they will be living for the rest of their life, and while their son gets to have their big house so he can finally afford to get married. So are your parents willing to make that sacrifice to you? And at this point of the video, you guys might be asking, what about me? Will my parents give me a house? Well, if you follow this channel for a while, I'm pretty much 100% screwed. But it's okay. I mean, yes, I do have debt, but I'm slowly paying back my debt. I'm not doing so terrible. As far as owning a house, well, I don't think that's going to happen, certainly not anytime soon in my future, but it's going to be 100% okay. Life is not fair. That's the family I was born into. Got no choice, right? So, virtually every single one of my family members has been divorced multiple times. And unfortunately, divorce is one of the most detrimental things that can happen to our society because, that's how pretty much every single one of my family members, that's how they lost almost all of their assets. There's going to be no inheritance for me, but that's 100% okay. I'm going to figure out everything on my own. But I think this video is already getting too long. But this is my main message for this video. No, I don't think Asians are smart. I don't think Asians actually excel. It's just a lot of people, they put on a fake image in order to save their face. Now, I've lived in China for many, many years. I've lived in Canada for many, many years. I met a lot of Chinese men, and the vast majority of them are struggling. They're struggling big time. And the number one reason is that, just like why, I'm financially struggling right now, it's because, the fall of the nuclear family. So, that's my most important message at the end of the day. If the next generation, they want to reverse the current trend, if they want Canada back on track, if they want to put America back on track, if they want to put China, Japan, South Korea back on track, then, come back to these 5 characters one last time. 家和万事兴. When there's peace and harmony in the family, then 10,000 things in your life will be glorious. So that's my number one message for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching all the way until the end, and we'll see you guys next time.